I want you to imagine a billionaire for a second. Close your eyes and picture one. What do you see? You probably see a guy stepping out of a private jet. You see flashy watches. You see someone tweeting aggressively, fighting with politicians, or laying off thousands of employees just to make the stock price go up by 1%. That is modern power. Now, look at this man. For over 2 decades, Ratan Tata controlled an empire that makes the salt you eat, the tea you drink, the steel in your houses, and the cars on your roads. He bought massive global brands like Jaguar, Land Rover, and Tetley. But if you search for his name on the Forbes list of the world's richest people, he's not there. He's not in the top 50. He's not even in the top 400. Hello friends, welcome to BeyondFame. Today, I'm not going to read you a business report. I'm going to tell you a story about a man who was handed a broken kingdom and how he fought for it. We are going to talk about the brutal insults he swallowed in foreign countries. We are going to talk about the political extortion he faced right here in India. And we are going to talk about the ultimate betrayal by his own people in the boardroom. This is the story of how Ratan Tata proved that you don't need to be a monster to conquer the world. People think that because Ratan Tata was born with the Tata surname, his life was a fairy tale. It wasn't. It was actually a very lonely childhood. He was born in 1937, and when he was just 10 years old, his parents separated. Now think about Indian society in the 1940s. Divorce was unheard of. It was a massive scandal. Little Ratan had to go to school and listen to the whispers, the taunts, and the judgments from other kids. He was raised by his grandmother, Lady Nawabai Tata, and she was tough. She didn't let him grow up like a spoiled rich kid. She taught him to keep his head down and his dignity high. To escape the heavy expectations of his family name, Ratan went to America in the 1960s. He studied architecture, and for the first time in his life, he was truly free. He drove his own car. He lived in a normal apartment. He even got a job offer from IBM, which was the biggest tech company in the world back then. He was building his own life. And he fell in love, deeply in love. They were supposed to get married. He was ready to settle down in the US. But then, a phone call changed his destiny. His grandmother had fallen seriously ill in India. Ratan packed his bags and came back to Mumbai, expecting his fiancée to follow him shortly after. But it was 1962. The India-China war had broken out. The news in America made it look like India was a burning war zone. Her parents were terrified. They strictly forbade her from traveling. The relationship broke, and Ratan Tata never married. He stayed single for the rest of his life. With a broken heart, he surrendered to his family duty. But his uncle, the legendary J.R.D. Tata, didn't make him a vice president. His very first job was on the shop floor of Tata Steel in Jamsetji. The heir to the biggest empire in India spent years shoveling limestone and coal into burning hot blast furnaces. He ate with the daily wage laborers. He sweated with them. He didn't know it then, but this physical pain was preparing him for the most ruthless fight of his life. Fast forward to 1991. The Indian economy was opening up, and J.R.D. Tata steps down, handing the crown to Ratan Tata. You would think the company cheered for him, right? Wrong. The Tata Group back then was not one united company. It was a collection of different massive companies like Tata Steel and Tata Chemicals. And the men who ran these companies were incredibly powerful. The media called them the Satrapas, the warlords. These men looked at Ratan Tata, this quiet, polite architect, and they laughed. They openly dismissed him. They thought, we can easily control this guy. But Ratan Tata is a master of silent aggression. He quietly passed a new company policy, a strict retirement age for all directors. It was a brilliant, lethal chess move. Because of this new rule, the old stubborn warlords legally had to step down. One by one, he cleared the board. He took the broken pieces of the Tata Group and forged them into one single, unstoppable empire. And once he had the power, he decided to take on the world. But the world wasn't ready to respect an Indian company. In 1998, Ratan Tata chased a dream. He launched the Tata Indica, India's first fully homegrown passenger car. But dreams don't always work out on the first try. The Indica had technical issues. Sales were bad. The company was bleeding hundreds of crores. Under immense pressure from his team, Ratan Tata agreed to sell the passenger car division. He flew to Detroit to meet the executives of Ford Motors. They sat across a massive table, and Bill Ford, the chairman, looked at Ratan Tata and delivered an insult that would change history. Bill Ford said, "If you didn't know anything about making passenger cars, why did you start this business? We are doing you a massive favor by buying your company." Imagine sitting in that room. You are representing a 100-year-old proud Indian legacy, and a foreign executive is treating you like a beggar. Ratan Tata did not raise his voice. He simply packed his folders, stood up, and flew back to India. The flight was dead silent. He cancelled the deal. He went back to his engineers in Pune and said, "We have to make this work." And they did. The Indica was heavily modified, and it became a massive blockbuster on Indian roads. But Ratan Tata wasn't done. He was about to show the West what Indian money could do. A few years later, he flew to London. In a fierce, aggressive bidding war, he bought Corus, a giant European steel maker. He bought Tetley Tea, the biggest tea brand in Britain. Think about the poetry in that. The British colonized India to control our tea and steel. A century later, an Indian man bought their biggest tea and steel companies. The year is 2008. The global financial market crashes. Ford Motors is bleeding to death. They are desperate to sell their prized luxury brands, Jaguar and Land Rover, just to survive. Guess who came knocking? Ratan Tata bought Jaguar Land Rover for a staggering $2.3 billion. And Bill Ford publicly thanked Ratan Tata using the exact same words. He said, "You are doing us a big favor by buying JLR. That, my friends, is how a king takes revenge." But success breeds enemies. In Singur, West Bengal, politicians turned his nano dream into a nightmare, holding the factory hostage. He built a massive state-of-the-art factory in Singur, West Bengal, but local politicians turned it into a nightmare. They launched violent protests over land acquisition. They blocked the highways. They essentially held the Tata factory hostage, demanding political compromises. He said, "If you hold a gun to my head, you can either pull the trigger or take it away. I won't move my head." He refused to be extorted. He abandoned the fully built factory, took a massive loss of hundreds of crores, and moved the entire project to Gujarat overnight. But the deepest wound came a few years after he retired. In 2012, he handed the company to Cyrus Mistry. But by 2016, the Tata Group was falling apart. The values were being compromised. In a shocking, brutal move, the Tata board fired Cyrus Mistry. What followed was the dirtiest corporate war in Indian history. Mistry dragged the Tata name through the mud in the media and the courts. For a man who spent his whole life protecting his dignity, having his reputation attacked in his late 70s was heartbreaking. But Ratan Tata fought back. He went to the Supreme Court of India, and after years of legal battles, the court completely vindicated Ratan Tata, ruling that his actions were entirely to protect the company's soul. He fought his own people to protect the legacy. During the horrific 26/11 terror attacks, the Taj Hotel in Mumbai was under siege. The young hotel staff, ordinary boys and girls, did not run away. They formed human shields to protect the guests. Many of them died. While the hotel burned, Ratan Tata stood outside the barricades, refusing to leave. And when it was over, he didn't send his HR department to deal with the families. He personally walked into the narrow slums of Mumbai. He sat in the tiny homes of the 80 employees who were killed or injured. He promised the families that they would receive the exact last drawn salary of their loved ones for the rest of their lives. He paid for their children's education. He even paid the street vendors outside the hotel who had lost their carts in the crossfire. And then there is the story of the Royal Award. A few years ago, Prince Charles, now the King of England, organized a massive event at Buckingham Palace to give Ratan Tata a Lifetime Achievement Award for his philanthropy. Ratan Tata had confirmed his attendance. The royal family was waiting. But a few days before the flight, one of Ratan Tata's beloved pet dogs fell severely ill. Ratan Tata picked up the phone, called the palace, and politely cancelled. He refused to leave his sick dog's side. When Prince Charles heard the reason, he didn't get angry. He reportedly said, "That's a man. That's the man Ratan is." So let's go back to the beginning. Why isn't he on the Forbes list? Because 66% of the Tata holding company is owned by charitable trusts. Every time you buy Tata salt, every time you buy a Tata car, a portion of that money goes straight into cancer research, rural schools, and clean water projects. If Ratan Tata owned those shares personally, his net worth would be well over $100 billion. He would be rubbing shoulders with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. But he chose not to. He chose his country over his bank account. When he passed away in October 2024, the entire nation stopped. Because we didn't just lose a businessman, we lost a guardian. In a world that tells us we have to be loud, ruthless, and greedy to be successful, Ratan Tata's life is the ultimate proof that the most powerful thing a human being can possess is empathy. He didn't take his wealth to the grave, but he took the respect of 1.4 billion people. Thank you for watching Beyond Fame. If this story moved you, if it taught you something about real success, please share it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what will you remember most about Ratan Tata? Jai Hind, see you next time.